Sunday. Every Sunday, side by side at the microphone, from the green light to the speed trap, Chris Switzer and Ray Garino calls them as they sees them, and you better believe them. Here, relevant news, biased opinions, and outright bullshit regarding every aspect of automotive culture. Gasp at mechanical trickery never before revealed over FCC-regulated airwaves. Thrill to the explosive tension as Chris and Ray cuss each other down the track and barrel roll across the finish line, laughing at certain disaster as they shake hands with the devil. All that and much more this Sunday at high noon on the Motormouth Radio Hour. Call in and speak live with the Wizards of Speed and live feed, Chris Switzer and Ray Garino. Bring the whole family. Kids under 12 get in free. Every Sunday at noon on WHPC. Take the Long Island Expressway to the Meadowbrook Parkway and look for the sign saying no parking on the expressway and no express service on the parkway. Go right on Highway 24 to Garden City. $2 all-day parking includes pit pass. Sunday!
Lipstick, powder and paint. Lipstick, powder and paint. Lipstick, powder and paint. Now easy will or easy wait. There goes my baby up a tree, giggling and wiggling and toting me. Let me put my glasses on, and that's such love and since she's been gone. Lipstick, powder and paint. Lipstick, powder and paint. Lipstick, powder and paint. Now easy will or easy wait. Hot dogs scratching fleas, looking like she's in love with me. Lick my hand everywhere I go, with my baby love me so. Lipstick, powder and paint. Lipstick, powder and paint. Lipstick, powder and paint.
All right, we're going live here. We're going to see what's. Excuse me, Kim. We're trying to get Chris in. Where is he? No. Okay. Yeah, we had a little bit with the board here, so we're trying to play with some inputs to get Chris Switzer in, who's waiting very patiently over on the other side of the air. But Kim is working feverishly at it. We'll see if we can get it. If not, we'll do something in the meantime. I guess I'll just have to talk and tell you a story. I can hear myself very well, Kimmy. I'm good. Motormouth Radio, Long Island's only automotive talk show. Right now, a little technically challenged, but yet it's kind of like when the car is up on the jacks and the mechanic, trying to get the thing done and he can't fix it. and all the guys in the shop come out to try and help out. It's like first one guy, then two, then three, then the boss comes out. And it's like, now they're calling the tech line. Well, that's what we're doing right now. The input just isn't there, which is kind of interesting. So, I don't, maybe what if we raise the levels and have Chris sing? Nope, that's echoey. That's an echo. That's no good. And let's see, we're muted. Yes, that is muted, so that's good. Yeah, Chris, I think you're going to have to sing a song. You think it's on here? Or you think he maybe is on here? You don't think he's on there? Burp, Chris. Nope, he's talking about we don't hear him. Okay. No, we have no, and he's not miming because I know he was doing that just to make my blood pressure go up. He'll sit there and just talk like phone. Yeah. Well, Chris, you can call in. Right. You can call in and we can do it that way. We just won't be able to take calls. We'll have you on the phone line. So don't call the studio line today because we're going to be doing a show in an alternate method. Our music today, by the way, I was thinking of Vince. I was actually thinking of Christian too, because that was Chuck Jackson's big bad blues band, which is something a little different that I found at our good friends Infinity Records. You never know what you're going to find up in the bins there. All right, let's do this. This should be hi caller, you're on with the Motor Mouth.
Hello.
All right, we got Chris in through the phone. Okay.
All righty.
All right, not optimal, but this is the way we're going to have to do it unless this gets figured out. I don't know.
Okay.
So yeah, the input on the board on the slide that would normally be for you that says Adobe isn't coming up. It's just not there.
Oh.
Yeah. So
boy.
We don't know why.
Okay. Well, of course, another technical snafu on this fine upstanding program. I can understand that.
Right. Well, you know how it works all too well. This is what happens. We never know. It's always, I call it cliff dive Sundays because, it's like diving off a cliff every week. You just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know where you're,
If the parachute will open or not.
Exactly. So, so we'll just wing it. So
okay.
I'm sure you're not going to be outside working on anything today with the temperatures doing what they're doing, huh?
No, I'm lucky if I can brush up against a vehicle in the garage now. But
really,
by the time I go in there looking for something else, I look at the car and go, "Oh yeah, it's still here."
That's a car. Yeah.
That's a car. That's a car. Yeah.
Right.
I am having a little bit of consternation, though. Something I wanted to talk about, share with the world.
What do you got?
I have that Mitsubishi sitting there.
Oh, right.
And I really do think it is a victim of hydrolock. So that means I may have to either swap out the engine, swap out the block, or pop a piston out. And I am thinking, is this car worth the work that I'm going to need to put into it?
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm having a hard time with, because I always say I pride myself on the fact that out of the hundreds of vehicles I've owned, I've only junked one. I've only junked one car my whole life. And sometimes I wish I didn't even do that.
Right.
So now we're coming down to this may be the second one. But I don't want to do it because there's so much that's right with the car that I'm literally torn. It's got this one problem that if I can overcome this hurdle, then the car would be stellar. Literally, it would be a fine vehicle. But it's just a matter of making a list of the pros and cons. And the only con on this is the fact that it's got probably a bent connecting rod.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a substantial little hurdle, though. That's not,
Oh, it is.
That's nothing. That's nothing new.
Yeah, and other than the fact that there's some small things, like okay, so the clear coat's coming off the trunk a little bit. All right, so that's going to have to be paid attention to. But it's still a 23-year-old car, so you have to think along those lines that it's still a 23-year-old car.
Right.
Well, just for the fact that it is such a fine vehicle, everything works, nothing leaks, that sort of thing. That it's something that I'm just weighing the issue. It's not even the cost; it's the time.
It is
the time to do it.
Brian just asked if they didn't pay the rent here. I said, yeah. And Cliff just asked a question. He wants to know. He wanted me to explain hydrolock, which is good because I mentioned it the other day. We had a Romeo meeting earlier this week. It was Cliff, myself, and Billy Velvet.
Cool.
And I was just telling Rob, yes, we took up 4 hours in the diner booth that day.
Must drive that staff crazy.
No, they love us. So I mentioned to them how my Mazda had hydrolocked early on. And what that means, Cliff, and anybody else who might care, was when, as an engine's running, it's an air pump, and then you inject, fuel, and you have compression, so you have spark, and, you make power. But only air should go into the air side. And when water goes into the air side, like in the case of like a flood vehicle, if you drive like I did, I drove on a street that I know wasn't prone to flooding, and I just went through the water slowly, but enough of it came up into the airbox and got ingested into the engine. And what happens is the cylinders now either partially or fully fill with water, and water is not compressible, nor is it combustible. So what it does is when the piston comes up, if there's enough water in that cylinder, and especially if the RPM is high, something has to give, and it's usually either a head gasket or a rod or something is going to break or bend because you can't have that compression in the cylinder. That's what a hydrolock is. And sometimes it shuts the engine dead. It stops it cold. Other time, my car continued to run, and it just had an imperceptible little problem with it. But it was a bent rod, and they ended up changing the engine. So just like with Chris's car, that's the that's the issue with that.
Yeah.
So.
I think judging by because you have to be a detective, especially when you talk to someone like your stepmother who has really very little mechanical knowledge, not taking anything away, but that's what I had to do and discern from the information I got. She went through a puddle and it must have got sucked in, and the car does run, it does drive. It went from Staten Island all the way up to Connecticut without a problem, but it does have an odd idle, and it's got a check engine light. I got a nasty P0300 code that will not go away no matter what I do.
Right.
So of course the compression tells the story, and it's at least usually if you have a 10% variant between all of the cylinders, you're kind of okay. This is almost 30% difference between the 5 cylinders and cylinder 1.
Right.
Cylinder 1, I think, was reaching a high of 115 PSI when the others were going for at least 145.
Yeah. I know I didn't see it when they took my car in, but they said what they did is they pulled the plugs, disconnect the ignition, and then cranked it, and water was just shooting out of the 4 holes like a sprinkler. They're not made. Engines aren't made to work under that condition. And like I said, when I got it back, it ran fine. Started, ran, but I felt just a little bit of a glitch when I would just take off, like just off idle. And when the shop followed up with me, like, how's the car? And I said, this is what's going on. They said, you know what? If you want to bring it back, we're going to run a supplemental and run this through again. And I said, wow, I'm kind of impressed that you would be that anxious to do that. And they said, we know, they were car guys, and they said, we know that you know how your car runs. I mean, a lot of people don't, but they said, like, we know who you are, and we know you know. So if you say you feel that, we believe you that it's there. And if it's there, that means something wasn't 100% fixed. And
what was it that made that had that little lag in the performance?
That was the bent rod.
Oh, okay.
What they did is they cleared out the motor, did a whole bunch of stuff, cleaned everything, and then, that was round 1, and it ran, so they sent it out. Now round 2 that's when they put another engine in. They got the okay, and they had to put it in. And they said to me, well, now this car can be totaled. And I'm like, no, I'm not ready to total this. The same thing happened with my buddy Jeff just this week. He's got a Scion, and he was out doing some errands, and a kid turns and T-bones him, and, I said, it's a fender hood, 2 doors. I'm like, yeah, they're going to total that car. It's an 08. And they did. He goes, I don't want it to be totaled. I was like, well, that's up to the adjuster. So, sometimes you don't have a choice. He may buy it back. But
you have that option, I'm assuming, to buy it back.
Yes. Yeah, he does in that case. And I would have too. But yeah, I decided to let's not total it. Let's just, we'll put it through. So we did. And my car was new enough where they, that didn't total it.
Right. And it's funny because I'm sure we'll be seeing a bumper crop of flood-related vehicles, even around the tri-state area here.
Oh, just this last weekend in this? Yeah, there's all the South Shore town. They're all flooded, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing especially what you guys have been endured on the island. Up here, it's been spotty, but we've been watching the news, and we've been seeing like Brooklyn and Queens getting flooded. You see water up to door handles on vehicles, and you're going, that's junk, that's junk, that's junk, that's junk. You're pointing at all the cars in the parking lot that's now a pond.
Right. They actually said on the news today that there's another storm coming, and they're saying they're looking up at like Connecticut it's going to be up that way now for damage, because a lot of stuff happens on the North Shore, which is your South Shore. Which never really happened before. Another job. I want to tell you about another job just this week. Our good friend Steve, who works for Mike, his Taurus, he had to take that for about a year now. He had a bad head gasket on it, so he finally took it apart. And I went over yesterday to look at the head and the gasket to try and make some determinations of what was going on. And it was that same thing. He had the problem for a long time and just wasn't ready to do anything about it. But now that he was, he tore into it, and I kind of convinced, I didn't have to convince him too hard, but he's going to do both heads, and, you got half the engine apart, you might as well take the other, do the rest of the top end. And again, it almost becomes, his question was, here's a Taurus, which is an older vehicle now. It was in great shape. He's had it for a long time. I think it was his mom's car before his. And he knew everything about it. He's been driving it as a daily driver. Now it needs a head gasket. So that means, the whole upper set, maybe send the heads out, have them redone. It's like you're at that precipice of, okay, how much do I want to spend on this vehicle in time and labor?
Right.
Or do I junk it?
Right.
And he decided to go ahead and that it was worth the time and labor to do this job instead of getting rid of the car, because he knows, and we've talked about it so many times on this show, the cheapest car to buy is the one you already own. Right. That car. The brakes are good, the tranny is good, the body isn't rotting off, it wasn't flooded. All right, so it's going to be $1,000 for you to do the head gaskets, let's say, if you have the heads machined. It's like a cheap investment in all the years you didn't have to put anything into it, basically.
Of course. It's self-explanatory, I think, on a financial level.
You're in a different position, though, than the head gasket, because a rod, you could maybe, if you can pull a pan in the car, you can take a rod and piston out from the bottom, right. And you can change it. You're going to, you got to deal with the rings, of course, and, they have one fresh piston. I mean, you can always put the rings from the old piston on a new one, I guess. You could even use the piston head. You could probably use the piston itself. It's probably just the rod that's bad.
I was thinking about that, like literally taking the piston to a machine shop, not having the rod rebent, but just buying the rod and just handing it to someone of greater mechanical ability than I and saying, just swap this out.
Yeah, it's just a wrist pin.
And then taking it back.
You could literally, and because I've seen stuff like this done in shops since I'm a kid. You could use the old rings. Like people will tell you, no, do that. Well, you know what? It matches the others. So the bore, you're not changing the bore. So those rings are already set to that bore. You can do the ring. The issue is the bearing, the rod bearing at the bottom where it meets the crank. And I would say that if the bearings looked feasibly good, I would almost say, you know what, take the rod bearings out of the bent rod, put them in the new rod. And believe me, that goes far against but what I would normally say about engine work. But in this case, just changing one hole, that you might get away with it. You might.
Yeah. I'm contemplating it. And also, every once in a while, I'll keep an eye out. I'll look around on Facebook Marketplace if anybody's like, getting rid of a V6 Mitsu motor.
Yeah.
And not that they're not very popular. But it's one of those things that I'm like, maybe give it a shot, maybe not give it a shot, because the way I feel about these things. When a car is in this situation, it is now a laboratory. Now it's let's see how far I can go before I completely mess it up, or I luck out and fix it. So it's not a car I need, which is nice. And I always say that takes the pressure off me, because I'll fall apart like a cheap suit if I need the car for Monday morning.
Steve said the same thing. He says, I have 5 cars, one of them runs right now. Because the Taurus was his daily, it was the version of his version of my protege. That was the whoop. He called it his whoopty. The one that's like that's your daily driver.
Right.
And he has an SUV, a newer SUV that he was using, which he was trying to save and keep in good shape. That became the daily driver now, while all the other cars are down. So I said, it's time for another car. You got to pick something else up.
Let me tell you, just talk about beaters for a second. I had to use my the tracker. salute to Dougie. I had to use my tracker this week because it's the only car in my fleet that has a roof rack.
Oh.
So I needed to move 2 pieces of decking, wood decking. I needed to, and they were 12-foot lengths.
Right.
I put 2 12-foot lengths of wood on top of the tracker and tied it down with 2 bungee cords.
Oh,
and I was sent on my way.
Were people staying away from you on the road? Because that's longer than that's twice as long as the car.
It was.
Jeez.
I had some material hanging over the hood. I had some hanging over the back. It's flapping away, and I'm just bopping along with this thing. People are staying away from me in droves. Wow. I'm on I-95 doing like 50 miles an hour, lifting off the ground.
Oh, boy.
It was like a big airfoil.
Yeah, you should have used you should have used the Chrysler, because you could have like disguised them as like rocker panel moldings. They would have fit.
Strap them to the doors.
Yeah,
exactly. No one would have been any other wiser. Sure.
Right.
But yeah, I was actually telling the guy at the lumber yard. I said, "Yeah, I got a convertible." I said, "I could have thrown this thing in the back, put the top down, put them both in the back of the convertible." He's like, "That's something I'd like to see."
You know, that's what I use my convertibles for. I use them as junk haulers all the time.
You did it too, right? But it's so funny because there's a picture of you hauling junk with the Challenger, right? Which is like blasphemous to any Mopar guy. Any Mopar guy would be like,
Yeah, Challenger convertible, and I have wood sticking out of the back. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like using a Rolls Royce Corniche as a dump truck. To some of those guys, like, no, come on, that's terrible, blasphemy.
I will.
That car as a mere utility vehicle. What's wrong with you?
It's funny, sex. I'll post a picture later because I'm always looking for things to post. I will do that. I'll show you now. I'll find it. And yeah, you're right. People are like, oh, how could you do that?
How could you do that? That's terrible. And it's fine. It's fine. Like, I've done it with the Electra many times.
It's like, I needed a pickup truck. I didn't have one.
Right.
And I did have.
You got the picture on file. Look at that. I love it.
Wood sticking out of everywhere. And I got a shot of my Fiat too, with carpeting and everything sticking out of that, because I did the same thing with that one. Yeah.
You'll all see this on YouTube, on the YouTube recording when Ray posts it on YouTube later this afternoon, because we can't post the live show.
Yeah.
Still trying to figure that out.
And I'll put it on social media. I'll put it on Motormouth Radio on X and Facebook, and it's real _ Motormouth Radio on Instagram. I'll put them on there too, because I always like to put a weekly post up on there with stuff.
I don't think I have as many pictures of falling debris as you do, but I do have a picture of the tractor with the wood on it, though.
Right.
I should give you that to post.
Yeah, send it.
I took a picture of it just to show my wife I made it.
Right.
Made it to my destination unscathed. Let me tell you, that thing, and I'm knocking on wood here, that little bugger is just, every time I use it, it gets better and better and better.
Wow.
It's one of those things. It's got a little bit of pep now. I made a turn and I wheeled the wheel. Right.
Woo-wee. You're probably low on tire pressure. You better check them. Right.
It did a little chirp. I'm like, was that from me?
I had a mouse in the trunk. Yeah. Yeah.
I was howling. Yeah. It was just hysterical. It really is. It's one of those cars that I just can't get over it. It idles perfectly. And I'm sitting in the car. It's like I'm testing it. It's like I know I'm sitting in the car. I'm like, you know what? I'm a little cold. Let me turn on the heat. I put on the heat on low. It comes out nice and hot, and I know the heat, the compressor has to kick on for the heat to work. It's one of those type of situations where that compressor goes on, whether the heat is on or the air conditioning. So you hear it. The compressor goes on. Idle just adjusts itself. It works perfectly. Everything is fine. I'm like, I can't believe this thing. This thing runs better than my good cars.
Yeah.
It's just hysterical. And it didn't, that's what I loved about it. It didn't take a heck of a lot to do it. It got a little, it took some thought. Don't get me wrong. It drove me a little crazy with that. But once I figured it out and it was just a sensor swap, I was like,
oh, you got weeks out of it. You got many weeks out of the ramping up. But I think the bigger takeaway that fits into today's show is that was a car that somebody else offed and said, I'm done with it. Get rid of it. I don't want to be bothered with it. And you revived it. That's what we do.
Exactly. And that is one of those things that brings me joy.
Sure it does. Sure.
I just go,
well,
this was someone else's junk that still had life left in it. And why not take a little bit of time out of the day and figure it out? And it didn't take, overall, I mean, it was a learning experience, and sometimes that can be kind of frustrating, and it was. But once you're able to figure it out, and now you know, and you can apply that knowledge to other things and other hurdles.
You know,
so it's never in vain.
It's exactly the same thing with the two cars I mentioned, the Fiat and the Challenger. I got them both. The Challenger had been vandalized to the point of not running, and the Fiat had sat for 7 years between two houses in Queens and just forgot about. And I said the same thing to both of the people I got them from. I said, if I can turn the engine with a breaker bar, if I can turn it by hand, I'll take it. Because if I can turn it, I'll get it running. If it's seized up solid, I don't think I want to go that far with all the other stuff. And both of them turned, and both of them ran. So I that was my buy-in. But was
the Challenger a small block or a big block?
That was a 318. It was a 318 904. 318 904, 7 1/4 rear. It was all the basic stuff. The money was spent on the drop top, on the convertible on that car. So
that's I have to laugh. What a great combination, great Chrysler combination right there for what we do.
Yeah,
is just a standard 318 with a turbo hydromatic and a regular old rear in the back.
And I'll tell you, people offered me every engine for that car besides a 413 or a Hemi. I was offered 340s, 440s, 383s, 360s, you name it. Guys, come on, do it up. I actually went and I bought I have on the side of my garage an 8 3/4, short grip rear that I got out of a Cuda that I was going to put in. But I tell you, I would power brake that thing and I would smoke show, one wheel peel, I would smoke show the street like crazy with that little 318. The only thing I did to that car performance-wise was I found a Dodge Diplomat and I sourced out the 4-barrel setup. I got an aluminum intake, and I bought a brand new Edelbrock 4-barrel, a small one. I think it was maybe a 500 CFM. And I got the linkage and all the bracketry off of a Diplomat, because that was the only 318 4-barrel that I knew of at the time that you could get. And that's where I got all the stuff. And I just converted it to a 4-barrel because I couldn't get that damn 2-barrel. The Chrysler BDL 2-barrels, as many carbs as I've done, that one really was my nemesis. I could never get one to run and perform correctly.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that was a Rochester-built carburetor. Wasn't it harder?
The BDL? I don't know. Well, I had no luck with it.
Mike had one. He had a 318 out of a Dart, and it had the 2-barrel. Yeah. And it was a Rochester 2-barrel.
Yeah, this was definitely
we had a bear of a time trying to get that thing to idle right.
I had no luck. But. So I want to tell you something else before we take our bottom of the hour break.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed this shirt that I'm wearing.
I noticed it. It looks dirty.
Does it look? Yeah, right? Look at the back of it.
It looks dirty.
Like what else? Remember we did the Motormouth Radio dirty T-shirt contest?
I think, yes. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Drew Parisi won that contest.
Without a doubt. Well,
he showed up. He took a picture with it. It's completely black.
Right. I'm going to dig up some of those pictures today and post them as well. This was Meckle Man Brian sent me this shirt along with an order that came in this week, and I said I love it. I wore it to both of the shops. Everybody wants one. So,
but is it dirty or is it intentionally?
It's made this way. I'm not bad. I'm just drawn this way. And I'm officially
Thank you, Jessica Rabbit.
Yes, I'm officially shouting out Matco Tools, and I'm going to tag them in the post because for years I said, you know what, Matco has like the worst. They're not the distributorship, not that at all, but the designs and they had some cool stuff, but the way they don't promote it and get it out there, or before it's out there, then it's then you can't get it anymore. It's like a real short run on stuff. So I told Brian, I said, I take everything back that I said about Matco and their their product, because everybody wants one of these, and I told him I'm the only one that's got one. And then Brian went and told me, yeah, that's been sitting in my storage unit for a while. They kind of like discontinued them. I'm like, no! I'll still shout out Matco because I think it's a great design. And it reminded me of the Dirty T-shirt contest when we were making T-shirts years ago. We had sponsors that paid into that. And we gave them away. We made them so we could give them away. And then we started saying, it was your idea, I think. Hey, send us a picture with your dirty shirt, like work in it. And we did get some, so I'll repost a couple of those
Yeah, we got a couple of winners. Yeah, I got to find them too. I think. Do you have them, or I got to look for them?
Well, we probably both do. I think I saved them on that separate hard drive where I have all the shows saved. So I'm going to look today when I get home. So
yeah, some of them are classics. Some of the dirty Motormouth Radio shirts.
So
we're still looking for sponsors for those shirts too. If you feel like donating some cash to make the t-shirt, we'll talk.
Sure. So I got some other Matco stuff to talk about. We'll do it in the second half of the show, and I must. It's the bottom of the hour, so I have to tell you that you should watch out for on this station. Herbally Yours, great show Tuesdays. Hey, finally, it's Tuesday. It's not Friday or Saturday. That just happened. Coming up on Tuesday, 3:30, hosted by the natural nurse Ellen Kamai. Our good friend Chip is a very good friend with Ellen, and definitely he's endorsed her stuff very well. And if he endorses it, I know it's good. So her show focuses on current issues in natural health, such as natural foods, herbs, essential oils, and mind-body techniques. Boy, we could all use some of that around this time.
Right about now.
And right about now, our WHPC weather forecast, powered by Pantano's Gourmet, with locations in Hewlett and Uniondale. Going to be a weird day. It was cold, windy, and it was cloudy. Now it's sunny. We're supposed to have they said between 12 and 2. Now they said 12 and 3. This snow squall that comes through. And they said it'll only last for 20 minutes, and there'll be no accumulation. And I'm waiting. I'm looking out the window. It hasn't happened yet.
I'm looking here as well. It's not looking at. I'm looking at the Nutmeg State weather window here. It's not happening. But it's supposed to be a 20-minute squall, complete lack of visibility.
Right.
Roads are treacherous for that amount of time. Go have a cup of coffee at Starbucks or something like that. Let it pass.
And then tonight, partly cloudy and windy, low at 21. I mean, I'll tell you something. We had some hellacious winds the last couple of days. It was really crazy. And I was out in the Limerick shop yesterday, and it was nice. I was going to shoot over to Pirate Paul's to check on his GTX progress when Mike showed up, and we were standing there, and all of a sudden, it just you could feel the temperature dropped, and then it got gray, and there was like some rain. He says, "Hey, wasn't it just sunny a minute ago?" I'm like, "Yeah, it must be you. Like, what are you doing? You brought the cloud. Get out of here." No, and then it cleared up again. I got home, and it got sunny again. So we're in some weird weather. I'm waiting for spring. So with that, do we have an honor group of the weather forecast hour for?
Yes, we do. Sit back and relax. This is going to be a long one. Motormouth Radio honor group of the hour. Drivers who found a simple puddle under their car in the parking lot. If you park the car in a parking lot, you walk away from the vehicle and into the retail store, right? You come out of the store, find a small, unassuming puddle under your car. First, you kick yourself for not turning around to look at the car as you walk away from it, something I always recommend. So now we're seeing what's the puddle? What is it? Is it water? Is it fresh water? Is it clear water? All these factors make a big difference. Clear water is good. That means that someone has been driving around with the air conditioner on in your car, and the leak is the byproduct of the AC unit, and it won't cost you a dime. That's one of those good leaks. But water mixed with anything will most certainly cause some cash. Antifreeze, motor oil, transmission fluid. Then you check the location of the puddle in reference as to what part of the car is directly above it. Is it then brought to the realization at that point that the parking lot stain is not in the spot that's sitting directly below a part of your car holding any liquid? And you come to the realization that the offensive parking lot puddle could not have come from your car. You never come, even if it did come from your car, you never come to that realization. So you go home and promptly put your vehicle up on jack stands to inspect every square inch of any potential leak. So if you've ever found an unsuspecting puddle under your car in the parking lot, you are part of the Motormouth Radio honor group of the hour. There you go.
Geez, talk about a novelette.
I told you it was going to go long.
Good. Well, you picked the best day because you got the worst connection. No one probably heard a word you said. It was probably like 48 seconds of. Oh, good. That was the honor group of the hour. All right. Well, I tell you what, let's go back and revisit a little bit of Chuck Jackson's Big Bad Blues Band. This guy does rock. He knows how to kick it. This one's a little more, it starts off a little slower, but it gets it in the end. And we'll be back with more Motormouth Radio with Ray Guarino and Chris Switzer just in a few minutes. So keep it where you got it. Hang on and don't go anywhere.
And I'll check the battery on my phone.
All right. You hit it, Chuck.
with answers to your car questions. Give us a call at 516-572-7440. Oh, I should have said the motor mouth thing.
This show on 90.3 WHPC is brought to you by CarStar Celebrity Chase Collision, with 2 locations in Limerick and Oceanside, who remind you that New York state law says you always have the right to choose which shop will fix your car. CarStar Celebrity Chase Collision offers a full range of services, 24-hour towing between Montauk and Manhattan, shuttle service, and they can help you with a rental car arrangement if needed. All repairs include the CarStar Lifetime Nationwide Warranty, ensuring that the experts at Celebrity Chase Collision are always on your side.
Y sí, hablamos español.
More information is available at 516-593-0920 or online at celebritychasecollision.com.
You're listening to the Motor Mouth.
Hey, Ray and Chris.
Did you guys read my mind?
Okay, I appreciate you having me on.
Wow, you guys finally figured it out.
Motor Mouth.
This is great. No more foolishness.
I miss my paisans.
You're a funny guy.
I've been waiting for Sunday just to ask you guys this question.
Our trained staff of 2 will help.
Well, good afternoon, guys. I need a little advice.
All right, so you got me to call in. All right.
I don't know everything. You know, you guys are mechanics.
You guys have a great show. Thank you very much.
I come with a tale of woe and a warning for the younger guys.
Chris is doing jumping jacks. He's getting ready. Ray is right behind me.
Every time I get off the air, I think,
Motor Mouth.
oh boy, they're never going to ask me back after that one.
Yeah, this is a collect call. How are you?
Quite frankly, there are better things to do with your time.
Oh, I probably called the wrong number. I was trying to get a hold of Ray. And I wake up screaming.
So I'm very happy to listen to your good advice.
Yeah, I want to know what the is wrong with my car.
You know, break it down for us call guys.
All right, see you next weekend.
Motor Mouth.
I know you guys usually speak Guido,
Right.
and now you're talking Pintel and Yiddish, and this morning I happened to listen to the rabbi on your station. So it's all, I guess today's Yiddish then.
Right.
There are answers, sometimes correct ones, and we may have them.
Motor Mouth Radio, 90.3 FM, WHPC.
Motor Mouth.
Hey, you, get over here. Every Sunday, 12 to 1, you are going to tune in to hear the Motor Mouths, my friends Ray Guarino and Chris Switzer. 90.3 FM, WHPC. You might learn something.
Nice. Learn how to play a mean clarinet, I think that is. Chris, what are you playing over there? I see you blowing it to something, but I don't know what it is. I figured you were playing the clarinet. I didn't know who was doing what. I don't know. Well, anyway, you're back with Motor Mouth Radio, Long Island's only automotive talk show with your hosts, Ray Guarino and Chris Switzer. And we're here to talk about your car needs and things. We wish we could have you talk with us, but we can't because we had to commandeer the phone to... It says that's a muted trumpet. It could be a choke on a trumpet, sure. Those things kind of sound similar. So sit back and listen. So something else that I got this week that I've never had before, always wanted.
Please.
Oh, I really needed this. And now I have 3 of them.
Ooh. Toenail clippers.
No. These books. Now,
Motor Specification Guide from 1998 to 2009.
Now, I was sitting in my chair the other night, leafing through this thing, and it's got those very thin pages. And my wife comes in and says, does a double take and says, "What are you doing reading a phone book?"
It looks like a phone book. It's yellow.
It does. I had gotten an email. I signed up for them, so I got an email, weekly emails from Matco Tools. And in it, they had these motor specification guides that they sell on the truck. And I asked Brian about them. And he says, he's got a few on the truck. And like a motor manual, they range from certain years. So where one lets off, the next one picks up. So you need, you have a shelf full of them at the end of the day.
Sure.
And what they have in there, it's specifications. So this is the stuff, if you're going to work on a car like I get to do all the time and I don't have documentation, there's things in here like, abbreviations, service reminders and warning lamp resets, lubrication and lift points for the vehicles.
Nice.
Tune-up specs, valve timing, sensor specs, cooling AC, all that stuff is in here. Belt tension, serpentine, belt routing. Then we get
How
to the
about
stuff.
Point gap, spark plug gap?
Well, tune-up. There is a tune-up specification.
There is.
But then under chassis this is what I was looking for. Brake specifications and brake bleed procedures.
Oh.
Bingo, right there.
Nice.
And of course, there's tire inflation, wheel alignment, suspension, ball joints. There's engine stuff. You go through all the stuff. But so I started looking up my own vehicles, and it's all just data. It's all just, you have to read it, but it shows you, like I was saying last week, working on Mike's Avalanche, not knowing what a manufacturer may have a specific bleed procedure. And if you don't have the factory service manual, or FSM as I'll call it from here on in, you don't know. These books are like having condensed FSMs for all the cars that they publish. So, yeah, you don't have everything for every car in this book. But if you want to look up a bleed procedure, bingo, there it is. And that's what I wanted. I really wanted that. And Brian came through, and he said, they don't really sell as well as you would think. I just asked him, is there a DVD version too? Because I think it'd be cool. I like having the book. I do. But what I would do is I would find what I want in the book, then go to the DVD, pull up that page, print it, and bring it with me when I work on the car. So, I'm not looking to gift horse in the mouth here. I'm like happy to have what I have. I got more phone books I'll make room for on my shelf. But the information in there is priceless.
And you realize you've been doing it all wrong all along.
Well, no, I knew I was, and every time I worked on a car, if I knew ahead of time, I would go on the internet and try and find these things, these procedures and whatnot. But, now you're taking up time that you could be baking cookies, you could be doing, you could be cleaning out the sock drawer. You could be doing, other cool stuff.
I can't tell you how many times I've come back into the house from the garage and had to look up something online. I had to look up something on my laptop.
There you go.
And it had gotten to the point where I had to bring a laptop out to the garage and try and get some sort of... I got a weak internet signal out in the garage, so it's always touch and go, however the wind blows.
Sure.
Is adversely or not affects my internet signal out there, my wireless. But I will, every once in a while, go and look something up. And it's not only... not because I don't know. Sometimes I'm actually testing myself, going, well, I remember it this way and that way and that way. Let me see if I'm right. Because who knows? Our brains get softer as we get older, and stuff that we used to have that we retained as gospel is now, I don't remember too much of that. And cars have changed over the years, and knowing the right procedure is definitely a lot better than experimenting nowadays, because you can't just experiment like the old cars. The old cars, you can go, oh, that's wrong, let me just straighten this out. New cars, with it being so electronic and everything so precise, you really can't.
You can't fudge it. Well, that's what I was going to say. In my case, working at the shop, I work on stuff that I hadn't worked on before and I'm not familiar with. So they're not my cars. And again, I don't have manuals for them, and unless you have a database, or like if you have All Data or Identifix or something like that, the mechanical shops have that, not the body shops. You're really at a loss, and you have to. And I've noticed with vehicles like this, one thing I picked up right away, I was doing the brake bleeds on a lot of these ABS-equipped vehicles and getting a good bleed on the front brakes, but not so good on the rear, not as much pressure. Well, I'm looking through the procedures on some vehicles just randomly, looking at my own vehicles to start. And a lot of times they say, you can bleed the fronts normally, cycle that ABS pump, let the pump have the key on, or to bleed the rear brakes. There you go. You need the assist. And I'll tell you something else. Here's something that... Oh, wow. Here's something many people have, and we know guys don't read instructions. I have a few Mighty Vac hand pumps to do brake bleeding with. This is the instruction book for it. Right. No biggie. Well, you go in here and read it a little bit. And when you get through all the stuff about what's in the box, you get to the section called brake bleeding and bleeding anti-lock braking systems. And it tells you right in here, the front brakes on most anti-lock systems may be bled in conventional manner. Most hydraulic pumps fitted can be used. Do some vehicles require that the system be pressurized when the rear brakes are bled? That's exactly what the big book is saying, and here it is in the little manual. They go on to say there was a note at the end to follow manufacturer's recommendations, the bleeding sequence, which that book shows you on all the cars. Sometimes it's not the way you think it would be. The procedure given in this article specifies to begin bleeding the wheel closest to the master cylinder, regardless of sequence, and always ensure all air is pumped from the system. Not the one furthest from the master. They recommend closest. And I was thinking of that when I was working on my FJ 2 weeks ago. And I said, okay, I want to flush the system. Right. So if I start with the wheel furthest, I have to pull that dirty fluid through the whole system before it gets out of that wheel.
That makes sense.
If I started with the front left wheel, I'd get that one. I could suck the master cylinder dry, fill it with new fluid, and get new fluid out of that wheel fast. I mean,
that makes a lot of sense now.
Each wheel is still going to have more plumbing that you have to pull through, but you'll be pulling clean source fluid. So, again, right in the Dopey Mighty Vac manual that I'm sure got tossed when the box got open, it's telling you, it's giving you good bleeding procedures.
So basically, what they're saying is you can bleed the front brakes. I mean, overall, we're not getting precise here, but you can bleed the front brakes conventionally, but the back brakes you have to put it on like accessory and get the
pump.
The pump.
Well, they say, but they say refer to the manual for the car because certain cars are different. So in this book, in I'll call it the Bible, the yellow Bible.
Right.
That book tells you. So like I know my wife's Cruise, it says, yes, do that. The FJ, it says, no, you can just bleed. You can just do a straight bleed. So some do require, some don't. But that book compiled, and Motor does that. They compiled all that data and put it in the book. And you could buy that off, on the tool truck. You could buy that from your tool dealer. And I'm sure many guys just walked right by and said, ooh, how much are those Oakley sunglasses? I want to spend $250 on those sunglasses so I can look cool with my rainbow colored wraps. I don't want to spend $100 on a book. No, $100 for paper? God, forget about it.
No, that book is definitely worth much more than
worth its weight. Worth its weight. Well, Brian has said that in the past, that guys will come on, they'll get like a stipend from the shop to buy, new guys, to buy tools, and they come on and they want to buy, a hat, sunglasses, a coat. They want to buy all the tchotchke stuff. Hey, dude, shouldn't you be buying like sockets or screwdrivers? I don't need those. So
now the question of the day is, that book only goes up to 2009.
Right.
You have a newer car than that.
No, my FJ's an 08.
Well, okay, but what about the Cruise?
I'll use one of the... I remember I said I have 3 of these now.
Oh, so you have another book that...
I have 2 other books. Brian sent me 3 of them. The first one goes from, I think, 80 to 95. And then the last book goes from, I think, 2010 up to 13, 14, something like that. It's not current to today, but I'm not working on brand new cars. Those are going back to the dealer anyway. So even when you get a scanner, a lot of times, if especially if it hasn't been updated, you get the last version, and unless you're working on new cars, you don't need the most up to date version of the scan data. You need the last one because you're working on cars now that are in 2012, 2013, 14. Those are the ones coming around the cycle now. So
because my Mazda and my Explorer are up for a fluid flush soon, because I think I did it about a year and a half ago. So we're up to another moment where I have to redo. So I may be calling you and asking.
Sure.
What's the procedure? Just give me a yes or a no. Do I have to key on or key off?
Sure. Yeah, well, I can. I could probably photocopy the page and. Have to photocopy it on the copier, then scan it, and then email it to you. But it can be done.
Take a picture of it on the phone.
Yeah, well, that too, possibly. Yeah, very possibly. Yeah, very possibly. So, we'll work it. Yeah, definitely. Listen. The information is made to be shared, and I'm all about it. So, yeah, if I can help. Wow, the phone light's ringing. How do you like that? Someone's calling.
But wow.
They can't get through because we can only take one call at a time. So sorry, caller, you're going to have to take this another way.
Yes, we're hobbling along here on Motormouth Radio.
Yeah, that's John. It's our buddy John who wanted to add something. But sorry, John. Oh, yeah, Brian said the last book was from 2012 to 22, which is pretty good. Wow. I mean, that goes up pretty far. But again, if you deal with cars that new, chances are you have a scan tool that's up to date, or you're working on newer vehicles, so you would have that, or someone in the shop would have it. Yeah, it's a dinosaur tool. Going back to where everything is in a digital age, and you say, "I want that book." I think at least I made Brian smile, because he's like, "Oh, somebody else who likes having a book."
Someone else physically having information in their hand.
Right.
And simply read. That looks like a phone book. Your fingers do the walking.
Right, exactly. But, like you said, sometimes you want to sit at that table. You want to flip through, go from section to section. And I did notice that I was looking at an FSM, and I did see things under the bleed procedure under the brake section of the manual. And then there was a supplementary section that covered service, like anti-lock brake service, and there was a little bit of a more elaborate procedure in that section. So again, you may want to flip back and forth and look. And see, I don't like doing that with the computer. I hate flipping monitors over all the time. I break so many of them when I do that. It's like I just like having pages. I'm old, all right. What can I tell you? Still listen to albums.
It's funny you talk about new cars compared to old cars. Just getting into that Hyundai last week before when we drove down to Florida with it. There was one thing that I found a little interesting. Other than the fact that the car ran fine, everything was perfect. The performance of the vehicle was satisfactory overall. I can get into the weeds, but we don't have the time for it. What I did notice that was a little interesting was the car does things for you. And one of those things, when you start it up, it brings up a little light, little A with a circle in it, which is that automatic shut-off. So when you pull through a
stop-start
or waiting for a traffic light, or whatever, your car shuts off, which, of course, I still can't get used to.
I know.
Like you say, we're old. I can't get used to it. I like a car that idle.
Right.
So anyway, there's a little button there that you can deactivate that. So you hit that button, start the car, hit that button. Well, then there's another little thing the car does. When you start it up, the heater or air conditioning comes on automatically, and it comes on full bore. So now there's no dial on the car. You have to keep repeatedly hitting the down stand button to stop that from happening.
Oh, that's terrible.
It's annoying. You get in the car, hit the key, boom, you get blown with air, either warm air or cold air. If the car is cold, you're getting cold, alleged warm air. So you got to hit that, turn that down, and then turn off your automatic button.
Right.
Before you can pull away.
Yeah, you got to go through all those machinations and hoops and stuff. Yeah.
And I'm like, it's gotten so automatic and so simple, it has now turned complicated all over again.
Yeah, amazing.
And it's one of those things, I'm like, why can't I get into my Explorer, I hit the key, start it up, put it in drive, I go.
Yeah.
That's all.
Exactly.
That's all. No, you got to get it. Oh, and mind you, there were buttons. There's no handle. There's no shifter per se. There's no mechanical shifter.
Oh, yeah.
It's a button.
I love that.
It's a park button, a drive button, a reverse button, and then it automatically engages the emergency brake, and then you can't deactivate it unless you get to put on the brake.
Right.
And I'm like, this is not smooth.
Yeah.
It's not smooth.
No. It's all in the efforts to keep people safe from themselves.
Yeah.
To make sure they don't drive away, without the door closed. To make sure that, I don't get what the heater thing is about. The stop-start is all, to save gas and energy, so.
I remember my old man used to get in the Seville. He'd start it up. He'd get it down the block before the chimes stopped. You had maybe 10 seconds worth of chimes.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. That reminded you, I don't know, to put the seatbelt on, to do whatever, brush your teeth.
Close the door.
It was. Adjust your mirrors. He would be at the stop sign by the time the last ding happened.
Right.
That's how That's how immediate
Yeah.
transportation was.
Right.
Now it's like clunky.
Yeah.
You got to hit this button, hit that button, before I can even pull away from the curve.
Jump in on the run.
Where's the drive deep with the deep button?
Right.
I'm looking for the shifter. I'm driving along. I'm looking for the shifter. I can't. I was talking about the Challenger. Driving the Challenger was a joy because you could lay your hand on the shifter and it felt comfortable. It felt like home. No, now you got buttons on it.
Yep. No, I know.
I'm done with my rant.
That's good because we're at the end of the show. We're going to get out of here anyway. So, yeah.
The technologically snafu Motormouth Radio Show.
Yes, sir. So we're going to try and line up some guests. Got a few guests in the wings. We're going to try and re-establish and see if they'll come in. We'll see. I'll let you know what goes on right now.
Sounds good.
In the wings. We'll see. So
hopefully we can have this problem fixed by that time.
Hopefully by next week we won't have this problem. This will be fixed. I'm sure Kim is going to be on it because she knows all about it. So
yep.
We'll see what happens.
Emails have been sent out. People have been notified.
Right.
Life is good.
Exactly. All right. So with that, we will end this version of Motormouth Radio and shove that over there and say that we'll be back next week. Chris Switzer, Ray Guarino. What do we say to the people waiting for you in the parking lot, Chris?
Don't follow us home, and thank you both for listening.
All right there. Very good. Right. Thanks, Brian. All right. We'll talk to you guys next week. We'll be back then. See you. 90.3 WHPC. Out.
See you, bye.